Welcome to the Center of Light Radio with spiritual teacher, intuitive, musician, composer, and best-selling author of The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth, your host, Keith Anthony Blanchard.
Today is a blessed day for me, and I want to pass that blessing on to my brother who passed a few days ago. No sorries necessary. He was a beautiful man, beautiful soul, and the blessing I want to impart to you is today, as soon as I finish this radio show with my awesome guest today, I'm going to go over to a center here, and I'm going to interview Swamiji Viswayogi. I've been announcing this for a while, and it's now coming into fruition. It is now manifested. The eagle has landed. I'm going to interview God-realized man. Let me say that again. God-realized man, Swamiji Viswayogi. I had the blessed experience yesterday to go to a Unity Church here in Memphis, Tennessee, and being among 80 or so people. After he did the meet and greet with a few people, and we laid eyes on each other, or should I say, he laid eyes on me, and in those eyes are infinity, trust me. The smile that came across his face, and when he grabbed me and pulled me to him, he said, "I'm waiting on you." What a validating experience. So tonight after this broadcast, I'm going to go interview on video, that is, and it's going to air next week here on Center of Light Radio on the Inception Radio Network. My interview with Swamiji Viswayogi. I'm going to ask him all the questions that I can come up with that I think is going to broaden our perspective of what we need to do, how we need to become activists for the betterment of humanity. Questions like, what's going on in the world? Where are we in, by the choices we are making collectively? What is our window for manifesting heaven on earth as a prophecy? Where's the work lie? What about the Fukushima nuclear plant that is supposedly still leaking in the Pacific Ocean? What is the condition with that? How do we combat that? What do we do about all these supposedly serious situations in the world? This is going to be my focus when I interview Swamiji tonight. Make sure that you go to KeithAnthonyBlanchard.com for all your Keith Anthony Blanchard needs, all my book creations, my movie, Do What You Love Forever, Do What You Love Forever, training course is all there. Everything Keith Anthony Blanchard is there. But also make sure when you're there, you download the free Anchoring Heaven on Earth audio meditation. Trust me, it will take miles off of your spiritual journey homeward. Not only that, it will help you create your life of ease, bliss. It will help you beat your feet towards your love, your joy, without doing the work. We believe that to have those things in life, we have to work. Nah. Meditation is the vehicle that will launch you miles further into your creative principle and further into those things you want to call into your life. Remember, if you want to call into the show to speak to me, to speak to my guest today, Miss Nicole Belle, dial 888-919-2355, 888-919-2355. And because I'm not home, because I have to be close to the side of town, close to Swamiji because of traffic here in Memphis, I'm using an iPhone, thanks to Linda, an iPhone 5 with Skype on it. So I'm not going to go into this big intro. We're going to get right down to Center of Light Radio business. My guest today, Nicole Belle, says, I had a spiritual awakening this summer, whereby I had an out-of-body experience and realized that I am truly a soul having a human experience. The difference that has made in my life and the creation of Awaken to Beauty community, which I use to teach the principles I have discovered. Nicole Belle is the creator of the Free Your Focus weight loss system. For the last 4 years, she has taught women how to lose weight without rules, restrictions, or dieting of any kind. Her program consists of mindfulness principles, body wisdom, and self-love. She recently experienced a deep spiritual transformation and decided to open her own practice to guide all women to experience the deep and lasting beauty that is their true nature. Nicole's mission in life is to help women connect to the beauty of their soul align their heart, mind, and body with its true beauty, and then express it into the world. She calls this journey Awakening to Beauty. You can find more about Nicole at her website, which is www.NicoleBelle, that's Belle, NicoleBelleCoaching.com. Welcome to Center of Light Radio, Miss Nicole Belle.
Thank you so much, Keith. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. And I can't tell you how full of joy my heart is to be here in communion with you right now. I really appreciate it, you having me on, and I can't wait to chat with you.
Well, we're doing it now. You were, like I mentioned to you, in the Radio Green Room. I think I just coined a new phrase, the Radio Green Room, the Center of Light Radio Green Room. We were talking about you were my first target for the debut of Center of Light Radio, and I guess the universe had other plans. I really enjoyed my talk with you on another platform just over a year ago, and so much so I wanted you to come back, and you were going to be my first guest. But now you sit here today, and we can do our Center of Light Radio dance. And again, I appreciate you being here. Tell me about this out-of-body experience you had that was, we all have out-of-body experience, right? But this one was somehow so profound. It shifted you in such a way that you're going to tell us all about this beautiful experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely will. And, before I speak to that, it's something that came to my mind as you were talking. I really want to honor and acknowledge the passing of your brother a few days ago, and something you mentioned was no sorries needed. And I just, I do offer my condolences for the the heartstrings that are pulled and the grief that I'm sure you're experiencing on a human level. And I do really recognize that you are such a deeply spiritually connected person yourself, that I feel moved to share with you kind of my experience in that realm in terms of just recognizing the soul connection that you have to your brother. And it's funny that we are speaking today. I do feel it's divinely guided, as you mentioned, because actually this coming week on Friday, I live currently just outside of Seattle, Washington. And I'm driving down to Portland, Washington, to visit the man who is currently in jail for about 7 years ago, killing my boyfriend at the time. And so what happened was they were at a party. They were play fighting, and it turned a little too real. And unfortunately, they were in a hot tub, and this gentleman drowned my boyfriend. And so about 6 years ago, so that was about 7 years ago. And about a year ago, I started this forgiveness journey. And it's led me down this path of actually forgiving him, corresponding with him, and now I'm going to visit him, which I think will be profoundly healing and wonderful. And what you mentioned about, no sorry needed, because it's just like on this soul level, there's really so much more than we can even know in terms of passing and living and being born into this human incarnation. And so I myself have also kind of experienced that feeling of that there's not necessarily a sense of loss, because I can be with that person at any time. And even that points to something I experienced this summer, which is, what happened this summer. And to sort of start telling my story was that after a series of things that had started this kind of clearing process in my life, I was living in San Diego. I had started my coaching practice about 4 years ago. And I felt like I just had my life dialed in. I felt like, gosh, it was so great, and I was so happy. But then I started to have this little voice that said, well, are you really happy? Or have you just gotten your external circumstances to really line up in such a way that you feel really happy? And I think we've all had that kind of experience where it feels like everything is working, but there's a lot of striving and there's a lot of managing, making sure it all comes together just so on the external plane, so that way we can feel good in the inner world. And so what happened was I felt called to sort of kind of just give it all up. I felt called to give up the life I created for myself in San Diego, where I had this huge network of friends and lived in this downtown apartment and had kind of created a lifestyle for myself that felt really enriching and rewarding, but also felt like maybe, maybe a little too constraining in terms of being really tied up in the attachments that I had to the external world. And so what happened was I felt called to move up to Seattle and really do a lot of meditation, do a lot of prayer, a lot of hiking in nature and connecting to God, and just kind of clearing away. And so, of course, it's just like anything in life. Be careful what you wish for. Because I told the universe I wanted to clear things away, and the universe said, okay, we can do that, and it'll be a little more upheaval than you expect. So I moved up to Seattle, and then I actually went through a difficult breakup, and so that was cleared away. And then I actually experienced kind of a challenging situation with a new male friend of mine. I thought he was becoming a close male friend. What he really was becoming was a stalker. And so that was a situation to deal with. I won't go too much into that because it's not important, but it was about a month or two of a really challenging situation with him. And then in the beginning of June, my mother was in a bike accident, and she was in this bicycle accident, and she went down an embankment. And so the beginning of June 6th or 7th, I can't remember, I get a phone call from my brother, and he says, Mom's been in an accident. She fell down an embankment about 30 feet, and she's in the ICU right now. And so he tells me that she's injured she's got some injuries, but fortunately nothing life-threatening, although she does have a moderate brain injury. So she's in the ICU, and we need to go over there immediately. So immediately I'm just launched into this, oh my God, I need to go see my mother immediately. But it's like I'm getting ready to make the drive, which is about 5 hours from Seattle. And I experience that she visits me, and she says, Nicole, everything's going to be okay. And I say, okay, she's right there. And she says, actually, she laughed at me, and she said, is this what I got to do to have you come visit?
Wow.
And I said, Mom, there's a lot of people praying for you right now. And she said, well, I don't really care about that. I just want to see my baby. And so, yeah. And that's still something my mom would say, because, my brother and I were the light of her world. And and as much as she loves everyone else, she's like, listen, here, let's be real. Here's what I care about, is seeing my baby. Get over here. And so I did. So I was already packing to get ready to go. So my brother and I drive over there and see her, and it's just perfect. It's challenging. It's difficult. There's a lot of talk with doctors and nurses about what it's going to look like and how she's going to heal. And it's going to take about 6 months to a year of recovery. And at that time, what I wanted was to spend every single moment, waking and non-waking, with my mother. 24/7, I wanted to be with my mom. And on a practical level, that wasn't really feasible unless I was going to rearrange a lot of things and even have some confrontations with people about, like, I will stay in this hospital room overnight, and we will, all that good stuff. And so it would have been possible, but it wasn't particularly practical. And of course, I was spending a lot of time with her already. But I thought, I wanted to spend every waking moment with her. And I actually thought that it would be extremely challenging to be away from her. But then when I was, all of a sudden I just thought, oh, this isn't actually hard. And the reason I felt that way is because I realized, and this was the beginning of my spiritual realizations, was that on a physical plane, we might be apart. But from a soul-to-soul perspective, we're actually always together. And on a soul level, I'm always with my mother. And so there's even though physically I might be not present with her right now, on a soul level, I'm always with her. That's why she was able to speak to me even as I was getting ready.
Yes.
And so even though my physical capacity cannot discern that, these instruments that we use to measure the world, our sight, our hearing, our smell, our taste, our sense, our mind, our emotions, even though on that level, I may not realize that I'm with her, on a soul level, I know that I am with her. And all it takes is for me to actually tune into that experience, no matter where I am.
And by the way, I want to say thank you for your well wishes and support of the passing of my brother. Honestly, to answer what you had said, I don't feel none. I can't explain it. In fact, this is one of the questions I'm going to ask of Swamji today when I have this interview. I don't feel any grief, none whatsoever, not any ounce of it. And it was the same with my mother. I don't feel it. I don't know why. I don't necessarily have a desire to want to feel it. And I'm sure because not only in an understanding way that I know it, I'm absolutely sure that I'm connected. I don't feel the disconnect. And I never really understood. I understand the idea that people, when they say, I'm sorry for your loss, that they're really trying to say, I support you in this pivotal time of your lives. I understand that. But the dialogue is very important. One, they're saying, I'm sorry. Where is this guilt coming from? And two, of your loss, you don't really lose anything whatsoever. If you mean that you wish that they were not invisible for me, I would hear that more so than I'm sorry for your loss. I don't understand the mindset behind the idea, though I do accept, allow, and appreciate their support for people, loved ones in their lives who may have someone pass, and they truly want to support them in the passing of their family member or friend. I get all that. So tell me more about this experience you had, this out-of-body experience that you had that brought you into this new place for your gorgeous new work.
Absolutely. And I will, actually, I love that you mentioned that you don't experience a loss, because I just love that. It's like we're so on the same level, right? It's just like so wild, because I so get that. Actually, it's funny, because when after I heard about my mom's accident, and I'm kind of, like I said, experiencing this kind of shock, but also like, oh, okay, the thing to do is go visit her. And I spoke to so I had called a few people, one of them being my ex-boyfriend. And so I called him and we spoke, and I told him what was happening, and he said, how are you doing? And I said, you know what? I'm actually okay. I said, I'm not going to invent upset where there is none. Yes. And there's just not any right now. And if there is, that'll be something to deal with on the human level. But I think I kind of get that everything's going to be okay, regardless of if everything being okay means, that it's maybe not what I want in terms of, maybe something potentially very severe happening physically to her. But on a soul level, everything will be just fine. And it's funny, because you're right. I do recognize that there's really nothing to be sorry for in this experience with her. There's nothing to be sorry for in the loss of my boyfriend 7 years ago. There's nothing to be sorry for with your brother. And I think the way I relate to it is these sort of human mores or customs that that sometimes my expressing or people expressing sympathies for a loss is more about conforming to this human experience, that's sort of the, kind of like you say, good morning when you see somebody.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, yeah, so that's very interesting that you point to that, because, yeah, I can relate to that experience. And I think, especially when you start to have this awareness of yourself as an infinite being, and this awareness of yourself as so expanded beyond the human plane, which is what I started to experience this summer. That there's not, that I don't get sorry. I don't get sorry when I misplace like a physical object of mine. I just, it's like, oh, I lost that thing. and that I don't get sorry for that. It's such a non-issue for me. And so then when you are extremely connected to this infinite spaciousness, this the collective consciousness, the God nature of who you are, I do believe that that on the human realm, it can start to take on that sort of kind of significance. That it's like, oh, you might have lost the physical incarnation of your brother,
Yes.
but compared to who he is and compared to who you are as infinite beings, that is such a small,
I truly don't feel a rift. I don't feel a tear. In fact, I was invited to go and be a part of the ceremonies and the rituals that happens when our loved ones do go. See, for me, it's like I'm still on vacation. He went back home.
Yeah.
One part of me does not want to be, does not want to do that. And I will do it for my family. But the part of me that naturally does not want to do it is because I don't want to support them in that modality of thinking that you have to grieve, that you have to be in pain, that you have to feel loss. And for me, it feels like I would be doing just that. But thank you again for your acknowledgement and your support of myself and my family, and which is a pivotal time for everyone. People's lives change.
Absolutely. And to speak to what you were talking about, which was sort of this awakening that I had, and which was kind of brought about due to this experience with my mother, and I think some of the other transitionary things in my life, and the breakup, and the move, and the injury that my mother had, the brain injury, and going to visit her and having this very much a profound connection with life and everything that's possible and my real inner nature. And so what happened was I started to really get, when I was visiting my mom, and I realized I couldn't be around her all the time, but that on a physical level, but that on a soul level, we're actually always together. And so there's no lack there. There's nothing missing. And so it's just like, oh, I'm on a soul level, I'm always with her. And on a physical level, sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. And that's what I started to get connected to with everyone in my life, with all of my friends from around the globe. And sometimes for myself, I do experience some level of guilt at not being able to call people as much as I'd like to, or some level of dissatisfaction with how connected I'm able to stay with people over phone or in person and whatnot. And all of a sudden, it just felt like, oh, okay, well, none of that actually matters. Like, I call them when I call them. I'm around them when I'm around them. Everything on the physical level is working out however it works out. But on a spiritual level, I'm actually one with everyone at the same time. And so it's all perfect. And so I started to get really connected to that. And for about the last 4 years, I've been doing Free Your Focus, which is holistic weight loss coaching, really kind of connecting to mindfulness in eating practices, and connecting women to self-love and the wisdom of their body. And so even within that, it's never necessarily been concerned with the physical aspect of weight loss. It's never been about calories and nutrition and hitting the gym and all of that. And so and I think that I've always had this inclination that my purpose was to be on the spiritual path and assist others in their spiritual journey. But I think there was always this small voice saying, oh, who are you to do that? Who are you to think you can help people in this capacity? And then after my mom's accident, I just thought, well, who am I not? Who am I not to do this? Who am I to play small? And if there's a gift I can share with people, if there's a perspective that I can share with people, then it's there for me to do it. And especially sometimes when you lose somebody or when there is an accident like my mom's, I really experienced, this human life is short, and so do what you want. Don't worry about what other people think. And so I realized my path is calling me to start sharing some of these spiritual realizations I've had, and to start sharing my perspective on what's allowed me to connect to who I am on a soul level. And And so I started putting it together, this framework that I teach people, like what's valuable to me in learning on my journey, learning through Marianne Williamson and learning through Eckhart Tolle and learning through Michael Singer and learning through these different people that I've gained such a wealth of perspective from, like what's been the most helpful to me. And then if that offers value for somebody else, well, then that's great. And so I started taking the steps towards putting this community together. And of course, when you do that, when you get on your divine path, then what happens is things start to align, things start to fall into place. And so I was taking these courageous steps, because for me it was courageous, because I had this concern about like, this is a little crazy. I thought I'm, I consider myself sort of, kind of like, I'm just like a normal girl. Like these woo-woo people, I love these woo-woo people, and I don't know that I'm one of them. And so it, to me, seemed like a little crazy to start following this path. But I just thought, well, this is just what's so. This is just what's there for me to do. And so I started putting together the Awaken to Beauty community, whereby I teach these principles that I have learned and am learning right now. And then what happened was I was going on a hike in Western Washington at Rattlesnake Ledge, and it was right before 4th of July weekend, and I was about to go and visit my mom again for the weekend. And she is right now recovering beautifully. Again, she's on about a 6-month to year-long recovery process, but she's just doing really wonderfully, which is great. And so I go hiking. I go hiking on Rattlesnake Ledge, and I do believe that it was sort of the combination between all of these sort of tumultuous external events in my life, dealing with a stalker, dealing with a breakup, dealing with my mom's brain injury. So having that kind of external turmoil, but then also this deep foundation of inner work that moving to Seattle had created for me of meditating a lot, praying a lot, being in nature, connecting to God, my spiritual studying. And all of a sudden, as I'm hiking through Rattlesnake Ledge, hiking up and down it, I just have this like click, this like whoa experience where like I just got it. And the closest thing I can describe to it is sort of like in Eckhart Tolle's book when he writes about how he had this one night where he experienced such high levels of anxiety and depression that what happened was it was just like he almost had to have this out-of-body experience. He was in such pain that he just had to disassociate from it. And he had this spiritual realization whereby he entered into the realm of realizing who he was, which is conscious awareness and being. And so I would say that it is similar to that, except that on my side, fortunately or not, it was not such a acute moment. It wasn't like I had this moment of despair or this moment of anxiety or depression. It was just, I was just thinking. And I just got it where I was like, oh, I realized, you know what? Like this is not who I am. This Nicole Belle, she's lovely. She's got her great qualities. I think people tell me she's pretty. I think she's quite a nice lady. She's smart. She's got nice hair and she's got a nice smile. She loves she loves literature. She loves traveling. She has interesting hobbies. She's got this past and this future. She's got relationships with certain people. She's got a body that she carries around. She's got emotions. She's got thoughts. She's got all these like delicious aspects to her experience. And she's just like, she's awesome. But she has nothing to do with who I truly am. She's just this game piece that I am using, that I'm animating in this experience called life, this human life.
That's correct. That's correct.
And yeah, and she's just great, which is great, which is perfect. And there's nothing wrong, there's nothing right. It is what it is. And it is so just like not who I actually am. Like who I truly am is this soul, this connectedness to God, this collective conscious, this infinite being that I can use language to point to, but I can't even describe on a linguistic level.
It almost sullies and soils who we truly are when we try to use human language to describe these different variables and aspects of what we chose to don ourselves with. I mean, like you said, you have this smile, you have this hair, people say you're pretty, or depending who you are and you describe your attributes. These are just little, they're just different masks we wear, because if you wish to strip all that stuff away, what you are left with is nothing. There is nothing. It's no thing. It's not a thing. It's nothing you can actually pinpoint. In fact, if there was words to describe what you really are, is infinite potential to be whatever it is that you will into existence.
Totally. No, I love that, because that's exactly true. And it's almost funny because, what I try to describe when I say love and light and possibility and infinite being, connectedness to God, collective consciousness, the universe, the divine, everything that we traditionally use to describe it, I find it so lacking. And I actually find that the best way to describe what I'm talking about is actually just to laugh. The joy and the laughter, the joy and the possibility and the nothingness that is laughter is actually closer to what I'm describing than anything I could use to linguistically point to it. Because it's just beyond.
Nicole, we're at the bottom of the hour. If you would give out your contact information, and after we come back from this very small break, I'd like to get into more of the mechanics of your program and how people can use some of these tidbits that you might share with them and start implementing this in their lives. Give us your contact information, please.
Absolutely. Well, people can find me at NicoleBelleCoaching.com. If they're interested in learning more about the Awaken to Beauty community, that's Nicole Belle or NicoleBelleCoaching.com. And that's NicoleBelle coaching.com. And if they're interested in the Free Your Focus program, that's at www.freeyourfocus.com.
Awesome. 888-919-2355. 888-919-2355 is the number you call to speak to us live on the air here at Center of Light Radio every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Today, my guest is Nicole Belle, and we are speaking about her wonderful program, Awakening to Beauty. Nicole, I'm looking at these bullet points here in your bio, and it says your mission in life is to help women connect to the beauty of their soul. Let's take it one at a time. How do you suggest that they begin to actually plug into the essence of who they are?
Absolutely. Well, what it first takes is recognizing these different levels that we operate in. And what it really takes is connecting to who we are. And so what we have is these different levels of identification in our world. And so there's levels on the body of identification. There's levels in what I call the heart or the emotion center. And there's levels in the mind. And so for a lot of us, particularly in this Western culture that we have, we identify on the level of body. And so we think that particularly for women, we think that the beauty and the physicality, the physical nature of who we are says, we think that our physical expression in this form of being a body says a lot about who we are. And that's not just our arms, legs, and butt and boobs. That's also even the level of body I take to mean our level of, the level of wealth, this identification on the level of body. And that's the physical expression of our, this human vehicle that we have. But it's also different things in society, like our, the level of money that we accumulated in our bank account, the level of status, the area we live in. the associations that we have, personally and professionally. On the physical plane, it's like there are challenges that happen, and there are things to deal with. And on the spiritual plane, on the soul level, it's like, oh, it's all perfect. We're still just working all together, and we are in one and in communion, and that's something that is new. It's a newfound experience for me, because traditionally I would feel very bound up in what happens on the physical plane, and even some level of anxiety or fear. And I think that that's what happens for us as a society when we get really bound up to the physical plane, is the neuroses that we see so prevalent in our society today. Yeah. And the anxiety, the depression, the concern. And myself, for much of my life, I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with depression. I struggled with eating disorders, with OCD, really with the gamut of issues that deal with self-worth. And again, that's because I was dealing largely on the level of body, on the level of physical plane. And even so for a lot of people, even when they start to transcend that experience of identifying with the body, with the physical plane, well, then what they do is they still experience themselves identifying on the heart plane or the mind, and so they identify as their emotions. And as women, we are taught not only to identify with our body, but we're taught to identify with our emotions. We're taught that our emotions are so valid and they're so important, and that they kind of make up who we are. That's sort of who we are as a species, as these emotional creatures. And emotions are powerful. There's nothing wrong with emotions. Emotions are great, and we can have very rich emotions, both on the positive side and on the negative side. I experienced a great deal of grief when I had my breakup in the beginning of the year. And what I actually experienced was almost this profound level of ecstasy in the grief and in the loss.
I understand that. I actually understand that. That's very, very cool that you said that. I've never really known someone or I had someone ever say to me that when you touch an aspect of your soul through pain, through grief, it's a different river that takes you to the same source. Absolutely. Yes.
No, definitely, because that's exactly it. It's because it is when what it's about is surrender. And
the grief happens to be the excuse or the vehicle that helps one release themselves from whatever grip they may have on whatever that's causing the grief or the pain. And so in the releasing becomes this amazing backwash or this back current, this flow of energy that somehow gets inverted. It's like, creating a primer or suction for a hose, or just the suction through a pipe. It's pumping and pumping, and finally when you give up, there's a reciprocal current that washes through. Yes, and it's an amazing catalyst for absolute ecstasy. Please continue.
You are absolutely right, because there is almost this orgasmic nature in terms of
it's like a siphon,
letting it flow through you. Absolutely. And just being with what's there as an access to the divine. And that's funny because there's this quote I love that says in one of our ancient cultures, I'm not sure which one of the Native American tribes, that they say that the people who were grieving were among the highest revered in their culture because they were thought to be the closest to God.
Wow.
And for the longest time, I experienced that as like, because of the profound depths of sadness, you had to turn to God. But then after this breakup, I just realized, actually, it could be even deeper than that. It could actually just be this profound ecstasy of union with God that is beyond grief, like you said. Like, grief is just the access to it. And then when you experience that opening, it's extremely, there can be an extreme bliss to it as well, which is paradoxical. But it's quite cool.
So, Nicole, how do women, men, be it through a program, a regimen, for weight loss. Here's the 3 bullet points. Connect to the beauty of their soul. Align their heart, bullet point 2. Align their heart, mind, and body with its true beauty. And then, number 3, express it into the world. But since you are here, at least we can go in any direction, but the topic was about free your focus, weight loss system, awakening to beauty. How do they begin? Of course, we all know meditation is an amazing catalyst. Do you have some other things that you wanted to add so that we would target the listening audience to align with their heart, to the mind and the body in its true beauty, and then express it into the world?
Absolutely. Well, I would say that the first thing that I teach and that I started, learning myself is it's really to take the seat of witness consciousness is the best way that I've heard it described, which is that I think for a long time in my life, I spent a lot of time through meditation trying to clear out the thoughts, trying to clear out the emotions, trying to access the being, trying to access my God nature through that. And then what I realized is that when that the more you do that, the more resistance you actually create. And so I'd say the most important thing to do when meditating or in life for myself, my own personal journey, not to say that this is the best way for everyone, but it's the best way that I've learned, is to, instead of trying to resist it, which really becomes suppression of thoughts and emotions and experiences, instead of trying to resist it, actually simply witness it and watch it and take on that it's not you, but you're simply watching it and noticing it, which I've heard called witness consciousness.
Nicole, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's very, very key. And in my spiritual teachings and all the books I've read, everything that I'm about, what you said is what I have said, but you said it differently, and it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. When we take witness, the position of the witness, and we see these thoughts and these feelings move through our experience, it's not concrete. It is not manifested until you grab it. Mm-hmm. When you grab it, it begins the manifesting process. But as the witness, like clouds moving across the sky, they're just thoughts. They're just feelings. They just move through you until you grab it, and then it becomes anchored. So how does this, work into your program? Because a lot of women out there, many as well, would say, you expect to losing weight without any diet? That's silly. I just don't buy into that. But, who was it that said that if you expect to lose weight because we have an internal energy system, thinking that I hate to be fat. And with an internal energy system, there is no weight program, there's no diet program, there is no really exercise program that's going to work, or at least be a long-lasting one. Mm-hmm. So grabbing onto the idea, I hate being fat, is no longer being the witness. It's actually truly intending and planting the seed into the ground, and of course it'll grow. So give me more of the program, if you would, about how they can begin to implement this particular program without, we're talking about the witness. Please take up from the witness disposition.
Absolutely. Well, then, there's slight differences in my 2 programs. So I have Free Your Focus, which is the weight loss without dieting, and then I have the Awaken to Beauty community, which is based on similar principles, but more. That's what I'm more moving into in terms of my focus right now. I'm moving my focus away from Free Your Focus into Awaken to Beauty because it's a more broad spectrum. Because what I've discovered is that anything in life that we are dealing with, it has to do with identification. And so whether we're dealing with issues in terms of a money situation or being overweight, typically what I discover in women that I deal with who have issues with weight is that they view themselves as I am fat, as though their body reflects something about who they truly are, when that's not actually accurate. Or even people who deal with money problems, I am poor, as though their money situation reflects something about who they truly are. I am this way, I am that way. And so learning to take on witness consciousness is important, because as long as you think there's a certain way that you are, well, then it becomes this sort of fixed, immutable property that you view about yourself, as opposed to a certain aspect of your human experience. And so when you start to take on the seat of the witness, which is the seat of soul consciousness, the seat of, like we spoke about, the infinite being that we are, that's almost inexpressible, well then, like you said, you start to disentangle yourself with the grasping and aversion that you can experience with these thoughts and emotions. And the reason that that's so important is because it does sound just a little bit like, oh, how would this help me? Well, the reason that that's so important is as long as you think that your body is who you are, and as long as you think that your emotions are who you are, as long as you think that your thoughts are who you are, as long as you think that your past is who you are, or your future is who you are, your success is who you are, as long as you identify with that, well, then you'll have to medicate yourself. And what we do as a society is we medicate ourselves from the pain that we experience through identification, and we medicate through food, through alcohol, through overspending, through putting ourselves into unfortunate situations. And we do that in order to avoid that pain. And when we start to recognize that that's not who we are, then we can start to release and heal from that pain.
You know, and this it's full circle. Perfectly what you described earlier. I'm Nicole Belle. I heard I had a pretty smile. I have pretty hair. I got this. I got that. I got that. And we talked about stripping all that away. And depending on what I'm getting it now, what level you are identifying on is the place you not only creating from, but it's the only level that you can't get up another rung of the ladder. But when you strip away, this is who I am. I'm fat. I'm this. I'm not. I'm inferior. This, that. When we strip all that away, now we're back to what I had said. We're left with pure potentiality. And when you can achieve the level by being the witness or doing whatever requisite work, by now operating from that space of I have a pretty smile, or the space of I heard I had nice hair, and all these physical lower level attributes. But when we can get beyond all that, now we're truly operating and creating from that space of pure potentiality. Therefore, the body, the job, the money, the house, everything on the lower levels begins to change because the spirit wills it so.
Yes, exactly. And I will point that I actually didn't say that I have a pretty smile. I said she has a pretty smile.
Well, there you go. It's validation for you.
Because, but I specifically said that in the sense that I recognize that that's not who I actually am.
Yes, right.
And I'll also, and it's funny because it's this sort of different, in spirituality, we really start to connect to these different levels of self. But yeah, on the human range, I can think that, there are certain things that Nicole, certain qualities that she has or she doesn't have. But again, I don't look at these qualities as innate to her. I look at these as things I have developed in her. And so, because I know, Nicole, I do view her as an intellectual person, and I've developed that in her. But it's not who I am. It's not some innate, immutable quality of me. It's just something that I've chosen to develop. And that's another thing, is that as soon as we recognize that that's not who we are, then that's when we access real choice. Because if my body isn't who I am, but it's simply this vehicle that I have, I can start to make certain choices around it that come from a much more freed up place, because I don't have to deal with the self-worth issues that they, it's not that I'm bad if I eat a cookie or I'm good if I eat a salad. It's just that that's a choice I can make or not make.
Yes. And all the processes that happens, and also all the processes that happens in the body when one eats from the process of, just think about it. I'm being good because I'm eating a salad. How beneficial is that? Or the opposite, which is I feel bad because I'm eating a cookie. Can you imagine reversing the idea? I mean, I'm feeling good to eat a cookie. Maybe the body is, the endorphins and all the processes, the chemical reactions that begin to happen in the body when you feel good about a cookie can literally combat probably all the effects of that cookie that you felt bad for eating all of your life.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I tell people that a lot of times eating that cookie, the reason it can trigger a negative effect in the body is not so much because of the cookie itself, but it's because of the negative thoughts and emotions that it triggers. And then that, because of all these belief systems that we have around cookies, very evil.
Yeah, right.
And that's exactly it. It's like when we start to see like, oh, who I am is infinite consciousness and the creator and light and love and possibility. And then I have this embodiment that is a human being that has no reflection of what I am. But I get freed up to make certain choices. And so then I can see, this human being, I start to notice like, okay, I've got all these thoughts that are coming through this human being. None of them are actually who I am. But I can start to pick which ones serve me and which ones don't. I can start to guide my human experience by choosing those thoughts because I recognize that none of them are actually the truth. And so these are the ones that seem to serve me. These are the ones that I notice don't serve me. And so same thing with our emotions. When my emotions aren't who I am, I can say, gosh, this, it doesn't serve me to feel shitty all the time. Excuse my language. Does it serve me to feel this victim consciousness? And what would it be if I gave that up? We're not invested in our emotions making us who we are, when we're not invested in our thoughts making us who we are, when we're not invested in the identifying of our body, we can make choices in so many levels. And that's what my framework really deals with is when I recognize that I am this infinite, unspeakable beauty that is a soul. And at the same time, because everything is paradox, I am also having this human experience. So I can take the middle seat between the divine and the human, and I can say, hey, who I am is the divine, and I'm having this human experience. And so I can make choices in my life that align with the divine. I can make choices in my life that are guided by my soul.
Let me ask you this. We have people who they love the idea of being better. And I say better according to the situation. I want to be thinner. And that's a beautiful idea if it's about your health and it gives you support within yourself and you just feel better about the idea of being thinner. And they want that and they truly desire that. And that's something they feel is beautiful in their life. That being said, they will try this, they will try that, they will try this, they will try that. But there's a part of them that will never let it go because it's important. Somehow it's important. Yes, it's my drama. It may be drama, but it's my drama. They like it. It means something. How would you suggest they begin to move through this self-delusion to achieve what they're verbally saying they wanting?
Absolutely. Do you mean like the what self-delusion or to
some people want attention? Some people want attention so bad they will end up in the hospital so the relatives can come around and give them the attention they deserve. Though they will tell you, I wish I wasn't in here and I'm scared to be sick and I want to go home. But everything about them on an unconscious level is why they are landed in this hospital bed to get the attention they've been craving. It's important. It's my drama. It's my story. Damn it, listen to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And, that's funny because, and I think that that's it, that we all on a human level manifest things that we say we don't want. But in reality, everything that we have in our lives is something we actually want. So how do we get past this disconnect between like intellectually, I think I want something, but experientially what I'm manifesting is this other thing.
Yes.
And so I think that to me, what has been the most valuable in my life is to actually start to see the resistance and to recognize the innate perfection in what is so. Because if I say that I want to be healthy or if I say that I want to be thin, but I'm actually manifesting ending up in the hospital, or I'm manifesting an overweight body, well, then there's nothing actually wrong with that. The only thing that's wrong with that is my resistance to it. And even the resistance itself is perfect. You know, we can start to get into the idea of we all experience resistance to certain experiences, and then we experience a resistance to our resistance. So we can say, hey, gosh, you know, I have this overweight body. I think it's bad. And what if I recognize that there's nothing actually wrong with creating this human drama? You know, sometimes we experience, and that's one of the things that I've recognized, is that there's nothing actually wrong with the human ego. There's nothing actually wrong here. And so that in itself has given me a lot of grace and a lot of forgiveness when I feel uppity, when I feel like my feathers are a little ruffled, or when I feel like I'm not giving the respect that I'm due, or when I feel those human experiences. And then there's part of me that says, well, Nicole, that's not very spiritual. And then there's another part of me that says, no, it's not. It's human. And that's great, because that's where I'm at right now. And so starting to recognize exactly where we are is perfect. And we can choose differently. And the way to choose differently is to connect with who we are, that, you know, where we are in our human experience is not who we are as a being. And when we start to embrace where we are and embrace who we are, well, then we can use that to start to choose differently.
What a perfect ending to a powerful show. Nicole Belle, www.NicoleBelle, B-E-L-L-E, coaching.com. Thank you for joining me here on Center of Light Radio. Would you like to leave us with a final thought?
Oh, you know, the final thought that's on my mind is one of such gratitude for you being here with me, having this great conversation, and for anyone listening and joining in this conversation via the radio show, and such profound happiness and gratitude. So thank you.
That door always swings open to you. I want to schedule you back for part 2.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you, Nicole. Be well.
Be well. Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye. Everyone, Nicole Belle, what a good show. I really dig talking to this lady. She's very empowering to me. I like what she's doing. She's an innovator. You can bet on that. Fresh ideas, bringing them to the table and distributing them like candies, candies, cookies, all over, but without the guilt. Cake and icing without the guilt. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. Every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You can find me here in the Captain's Chair of Center of Light Radio. I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat room. Profanity, One Eternal Being, Jay, Dana, MJ, Analog Hall, all Native Earth Lady, just all those wonderful people who show up time and time again in support of my beautiful work in Center of Light Radio. I'm on my way to hang out with Swamji Yogi, and hopefully we're going to capture my excitement of this beautiful experience, this powerful experience that's going to soon be coming down the pipeline of Center of Light Radio. I bid you all a wonderful evening. Remember, when you lay down at night and you have nothing else to do, make sure that you at least do a little bit of something, and that is breathe. And breathe from the perspective that you want something that is expansive, something that is beyond what you know as yourself. And I promise you, the energy that will begin to invade your body will be such an amazing blanket of love, and it will give you glimpses into who you are as your expanded self. Always remember to ease into bliss and spread the light and power up. Good evening.